welcome back to my channel. Today I'm excited to share with you guys a review and demo of a brand new foundation on the market, and this is from Urban Decay. This is the new all-nighter liquid foundation. I was super excited when this released about a week or two ago because this has been so hyped up on the internet and on Instagram, and just it looked really good, it sounded really good with all its claims about it, and so I was like, I have to try it out and see if it's as amazing as it sounds and let you guys know what I think about it. So this is the brand new packaging for this foundation. It's so different than most of Urban Decay packaging, which is usually purple and white and silver, but mostly just like purple outer packaging, whereas this, it's completely silver and it has like some crisscross design. So that is exactly what the actual packaging of the foundation looks like. It's the same type of packaging as the original Naked Skin Weightless Foundation as far as it being in a tube with a cap that comes off and then you can pump the foundation out. However, this one is completely silver and then has the crisscross design as well. So here is what it looks like up close. You can see that the foundation still peeks through, but it's got this really cool new design, and it's just really cool for fall especially. So let me go ahead and read you some information offline about what it says the foundation does and all the claims and the shades and the price and things like that. I will be reading off Sephora's website because that is where I did end up purchasing mine, but it is available at Urban Decay, Sephora, and Ulta at the moment. And so it does retail for $40, and you do get 1 fluid ounce in here, which is the same exact size and price as the original Naked Skin Weightless Foundation. It also comes in a total of 24 shades, which is the same exact shades and shade ranges that the original foundation came in as well. And so I did end up picking up the shade 5.0, if you can see, the shade 3.25. And the reason I ended up picking up 2 shades, which I will go ahead and address the shade range right now, because this is definitely the biggest downfall to this foundation and probably the biggest disappointment about this foundation to me, whereas everything else I'm really loving about it, is definitely the shade range. So similar to the other Naked Skin foundation, anything that ends in a 0 is going to be your warm undertones, and anything that ends in a 0.5 is going to be your cool undertones or have a pink undertone to it. So I was originally color IQ'd at Sephora and matched to 5.0 because I do have a tan right now. However, it does oxidize probably about 2 shades darker, and anything that ends in that 0.0 that has a warm undertone oxidizes to more of an orangey color, which is definitely not what you want. Definitely because I have a tan, I have a little bit more of a warm undertone, which is fine. It matches my skin a little bit better. However, it oxidized orangey, which is not what I wanted. And when I wore it a couple days that I had this foundation only before I got the other shade, I was kind of looking at myself and I was like, ooh, I look a little like Oompa Loompa-y. Like, it didn't look cute at all. I was like, this is too dark, this doesn't look good. But like when I first put it on the skin, it matched really well and it just had a warm undertone, nothing too orangey, but definitely oxidized a little bit too orange for my taste. So I ended up going down 2 shades because I was afraid one shade just wasn't going to cut it and was going to still be too dark. So I went down to the shade 3.25, which is described as light with a neutral undertone. Now, 0.25 is a neutral undertone. However, there is only 1 neutral undertone in this collection, which is, again, another disappointment. I wish they would have come out with more neutral undertones for people, but they only came out with 1, so that's the one I picked. And you'll see in the demo that I'll go ahead and play right now. When I first apply it, it does kind of seem like it's a little too light and doesn't match my body and my chest right away. However, because it does oxidize, and by the time I put on bronzer, it ends up being perfect. It's what I have on now, and I think it ends up being really nice and matching me pretty well and looking pretty natural. However, I will say the 0.25 does not oxidize to an orange color. It does oxidize a little bit and turn darker and really match my skin tone a lot better, but it does not turn orange, which I like. So I have a feeling anything with the 0.5 and with the 1.25 is going to oxidize darker, about 2 shades, but it's not going to turn orangey. So anything that is going to turn orangey is going to be those warm undertones. So unfortunately, that does make it hard to kind of color match if you're some kind of shade in the original foundation. Like if you're a 5 in the original foundation, I would go down to a 3. I wouldn't start messing with the undertones just because if you've already been a warm undertone, you're probably going to be still a warm undertone, but I would definitely just go down 2 shades and that would be your best bet. However, your best bet out of all of them would to be go into the stores and to match yourself with the color that you're color IQ'd for. Put it on your hand, walk around, shop a little, and see you know, where you end up and where it oxidizes. If it oxidizes too dark and too orangey for you, I would then go and get 2 shades lighter, put it on your hand, walk around, and see if that matches a little bit better. But if you're someone that's only available online for you to purchase just because of where you live and the availability of Sephora's, I would just take the shade you normally are and go down 2 and you'll probably be okay. So unfortunately, that is definitely the biggest downfall to this foundation, is the fact that 1, it oxidizes, 2, the warm shades oxidize orangey, and 3, it just makes it really hard to color match, especially if you're purchasing only online. So besides that, I actually really enjoy this foundation and I've been really impressed by it. So let me go ahead and read you some of the claims it makes, and then I'll stop throughout and tell you what I think about those claims. So it says it's an oil-free, full coverage, waterproof foundation with a matte finish that lasts all night. All-nighter liquid foundation offers full coverage with a modern matte finish. So it is extremely full coverage. You'll see in that demo how full coverage it really is, that I really didn't need to go in there and conceal at all, that it's actually kind of a foundation with concealer all in one. And the place that you'll see it the most and just really defined of how full coverage it is underneath the eyes. I did not go in with any concealer afterward. I don't have it on now, and it definitely conceals everything to my liking and to my preference. I think it looks great without having to go in there with additional products. However, if you want to go in there because of a brightening effect and want to make it a little bit brighter, you could, but you definitely don't need to as far as getting more coverage, because this is very full coverage and it will cover any kind of imperfections and really smooth out the skin and makes it look flawless. Like, my skin right now looks flawless and amazing, and it looks so beautiful when you first apply it. It's gorgeous, and it is definitely a matte finish. The original Weightless Skin foundation is an actual demi matte finish, so it's kind of got a little bit of a luminosity to it, whereas this one is a flat matte, and it really is really matte. The foundation that comes to mind that is very similar to it that I have in my collection is the Estee Lauder Double Wear foundation. As far as that being matte and that being full coverage and the way it feels on the skin, to me those are very comparable. So if you like the Estee Lauder one, you will definitely like this one as far as the way it looks on the skin, and it looks so flawless and full coverage and just makes you look beautiful and perfect. Then you will definitely like this foundation. So it says, with a modern matte finish that never looks overdone, get foundation that lasts all night and a flawless looking complexion with this foundation. Perfect for a night on the town. The innovative formula is also comfortable enough to wear every day. So that's another thing. Even though it is so full coverage and it's a little bit thicker in my opinion than the Estee Lauder one, if I were to put both of them side by side, I think the Estee Lauder one will run a little bit faster than the Urban Decay would. This one's got a little bit of a thicker consistency. However, it feels so lightweight on the skin. Like, I don't think it feels like I'm wearing like a very thick full coverage foundation. I think it's definitely more lightweight than the Kat Von D Lock-It foundation. I don't have a full size of that, but I have tried it before in samples, and that one to me you can definitely feel that you are wearing like a high coverage foundation, whereas this one doesn't feel any different than like any of my other foundations that are very full coverage, like my Tarte one or Estee Lauder. Like, to me those still feel very lightweight on the skin and don't feel cakey, and they don't feel like they're weighing me down or like I've got 10 pounds of makeup, which is really nice. Like, if you can get something that packs a punch and be full coverage but yet feel lightweight, like, that is a winner. So it says, while Naked Skin complexion products are demi-matte, all-nighter liquid foundation is completely matte. Urban Decay loaded this formula with an insane amount of pigment, about 3 times as much as the Naked Skin liquid makeup. So a little goes a long way, which is so true. If you guys are familiar with the original Weightless Naked Skin foundation, that one has a very liquidy formula and probably a light to medium coverage, so it definitely takes a lot more product, especially if you are trying to build it up to a medium to full coverage foundation. Then it definitely takes a lot more product, whereas this one I use about a pump and then a little bit more, like not quite half a pump, but maybe a quarter. So 1.25 pumps, and this gets my entire face and like neck to match everything to my body perfectly. So a little does go a long way, considering even though it is a thicker full coverage foundation, it is so pigmented, and you'll see that in the demo already, like how much pigment and how opaque it is when I put it on the skin. A little really does go a long way, and it just blends and spreads onto the face so easily and effortlessly. For being so full coverage and thick, I find that it blends out really well on the skin. It does work really well with a brush or with some kind of beauty blender or damp sponge of some sort. However, I do prefer it with a damp sponge. I think it just makes it more flawless. On top of it being a flawless foundation, it just kind of is like the topper and the icing on the cake when you use a damp sponge, but I also think it is like a tad bit easier to blend out and just make it a little bit more effortless when you use a damp sponge versus using a brush. This is definitely a foundation that you do not need to build up. Like, you will get the coverage that you want, full coverage, like high coverage with one little application, so you don't need to build it up, which is really nice. And it diffuses light to blur flaws for a beautifully perfected skin as it mattifies and absorbs oil to reduce the appearance of shine. With a wide range of meticulously calibrated shades that match UD's existing naked skin liquid makeup shades, it's easy to find your perfect match. So I will say you will look flawless. It does blur imperfections, and it's probably one of the most flawless foundations when you first apply it that I've ever seen. It looks so good on the skin. The only thing that I completely do not agree with is that I do not think it matches the original Naked Skin Weightless Foundation. Like, if you're a shade 3 in that, I don't think you're going to be a shade 3 in this new all-nighter. I would go down 2 shades because it oxidizes, and again, those warm shades will oxidize a little bit more orange, so keep that in mind as well. When you first put it on, it's so flawless. It blends easy. I love blending it out with a beauty blender. It's really easy to blend. It doesn't take a long time, and it's wham bam done. It's super fast for being a high coverage foundation. You don't have to go in there with concealer unless you want to for a brightening effect, but it's definitely going to cover and conceal everything. It makes, you know, all your imperfections look blurred out and flawless, and it's just a beautiful foundation. And it dries really nicely to a powdery finish where, like, you can immediately touch your skin. Like, I haven't set anything today, and it feels so nice. It's not tacky. For being a full coverage foundation, it dries really nicely. Like, sometimes with full coverage foundations, like, they are tacky and they feel a little cakey on the skin that you have to then smooth it out with some powder. This, you don't need to powder. If you're someone that has dry skin or normal skin, I would not powder your entire face whatsoever because you're not going to need it. And if you're someone that has combo skin, I would only suggest powdering where you get really oily. So today I didn't powder because I'm staying home, it's fine. But like during the work week when I go out and I'm going to be outside and things like that, I do powder only in the T-zone, right here where I get a little oily, and right on the bottom of my chin, because I found, because I do have combo skin, that in any place that I had dry skin, by the end of the day, if I had powdered my whole face, it did look a little like flaky and like clung to the dry spots. Still looked nice, but I could definitely see like where my dry patches were because I had gone in with that powder, which wasn't necessary. Now, the only people I think that could get away with powdering their entire face is someone that has oily or very oily skin. Then I think you could powder your whole face and you would be fine to set it. That way it locks everything in and you won't get oily throughout the day. But if you're anyone else that has dry or normal skin, I would not set it. And if you have combo skin, I would only set it in the places that you get really oily. My biggest recommendation is for primers with this foundation is if you have dry skin, I definitely would use a hydrating primer because I could see it clinging to dry spots or just texture because it does dry to such a powdery finish. It may be a little bit too drying for you. I don't find it drying at all, but I do have combo skin, so I don't need a ton of hydration in my skin. But if you have dry skin and you crave that hydration but want a matte look, I would definitely just use a hydrating primer underneath. You could use the Makeup Forever hydrating one or the smoothing one, and I think you would then be good. Or use a really nice moisturizer before and then this foundation. I think you will be fine. But if you don't use something like that and then just go in with this, I don't know if by the end of the day if it would be too dry for you because it does dry to that powdery finish. It may just kind of feel too drying for you and too mattifying. So definitely if you have dry skin, to use a hydrating primer. If you have texture or just dry spots, I would use a smoothing primer. And then if you're someone that has combo or normal skin, I don't think you need to use a primer. But if you have very oily skin, then you may want to use a mattifying primer because I do have common oily skin, and I would say it was around the 7 to 8 hour mark that I had just a little bit of shine, like nothing that was crazy. Like I wasn't looking in the mirror going like, ooh, gross, I look oily and disgusting. It was just like, oh, I have a little shine, like I could just touch up a little bit and I would be fine. But I have been reading some reviews on Sephora of a little bit of mixed reviews with people with the oily skin, whether some people thought they were oily grease monsters and some said, no, this keeps me like completely matte all day. So my suggestion for people with oily skin is to use a mattifying primer, to set it with a powder, and then to spray it with a setting spray if you're someone that's very oily, because I can only speak for my combo skin, and for me it did not make me extra oily or anything like that, and it lasted all day looking completely flawless. The only time that I didn't like how it wore by the end of the day was the day that I completely powdered my face, and I found that it just like clung to a little bit of dry spots and made it look a little bit cakey. But I think that was easily mitigated by only powdering just a little bit of those shiny spots in the morning versus powdering my whole face. So overall, I think this is a gorgeous, beautiful foundation. It looks so flawless on the skin. It feels lightweight. It doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel cakey. My skin just looks absolutely perfect. It covers imperfections. It's kind of an all-in-one where you don't need to go in there and conceal anymore for coverage. You can only conceal if you want brightness and things like that. But I think it's a beautiful foundation. For me with combo skin, it lasted all day looking really nice. It was only after that 8-hour mark that I really felt like I had a little bit of shine, but it was definitely just kind of normal. I did get a little shiny on the forehead and a little bit of shiny on the nose and a little bit of breakage like on the tip because I'm constantly like touching my nose. But other than that, that's kind of what happens with most of my foundations regardless anyways. And so that's easily mitigated with just a little bit of blotting or a little bit of powdering after the 8-hour mark. But being so full coverage and being so thick, I thought it lasted really, really well throughout the day. And I think a lot of people are going to like this foundation. I think it's ideal for people with normal or combo skin. And I think if you're on the other sides of the spectrum with dry skin and very, very oily skin, I think you will enjoy it as long as you use other products with it that will enhance your experience, like using a certain primer or using powders and setting sprays and things like that. So ideal for normal and combo skin, but definitely I think everyone can make it work for them if they try it with other products. So overall, I'm super excited about this foundation. I love finding full coverage foundations because I'm a full coverage girl at heart, and so I love the Estee Lauder Double Wear. I love the Tarte Amazonian Clay Foundation, and now I absolutely love this new Urban Decay All Nighter foundation. So I hope you guys enjoyed the review and found the demo helpful to see how it looks on the skin. And let me know in the comment section down below if you guys have ended up trying out this product and what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you can stay tuned to all my upcoming videos, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye!